Hey guys, Run Your Pharmacist here. So I'm sitting in my digestive section because today I wanted to talk about constipation in children, because it can happen to about 30% of children out there, and it usually happens within 3 of their milestones. So one being when you're introducing solids for the first time, the second is when you're toilet training them, and the third is probably when you send them off to school. So definition of constipation is when you have a slowdown or a delay in your natural routine and cycle. So everybody's cycle is completely different, and you can imagine when you're adding solids into a newborn, then they're still trying to figure it out for themselves as well. There's such a big range in that sort of natural cycle. You can get some children that go a few times a day and others which might not go for 10 days. So it's just a little bit of patience and a little bit of finding out what their real routine is. And so what is considered normal is really about what is considered normal for your child. So just as a slight guide, so this is more for the newborns. So breastfed babies tend to go, well, some of them can go after every feed, and others can go maybe once every 7 to 10 days. Whereas there's a little bit of a narrowing in that sort of variance for bottle-fed babies, where they may go once a day or once every 3 days. But they tend to go a little bit more frequently, I guess. Okay, so other signs that are probably less associated with constipation could be maybe they get a little bit more irritated easily. Sometimes they get a lack of appetite. Other times they may have abdominal pain, or even if they actually tell you straight up that they've got a little bit of pain around their bottom. So there might even be like a little a tear there or an anal fissure. And for those with older children, sometimes you can get the odd accident that might happen, which could be an indication of constipation as well. So prevention is always a good way to go about these things. So here are a few tips just to see if they'll help you guys. So adding fiber to their diet is a good idea, and this could be just increasing fiber in the foods that you're giving them, or if they're a finicky eater, sometimes you might have to come and see us and get like a fiber supplement, which is really easy anyway, because they'll never know that it's in the food. It's a powder that'll dissolve clear. It's tasteless, so really easy when you're trying to hide it in foods and drinks and things like that. And so how much fiber to give? Well, as a general rule, you would probably add 1 gram of fiber for every year of age and add 5 on that. So for example, if you had a 6-year-old, that would be 6 grams plus 5, which is 11 grams per day. So a lot, the fiber really tends to help the children if yours tends not to go to the toilet very often, and so it just helps them move it along. So if they're going every 3 or 4 days, then this just helps move things along. Which can be a good idea. A lot of people talk about adding fluids or increasing fluids. Just having a nice standard level of fluid is a good idea, but they've surprisingly found that adding extra fluid while constipated doesn't really help, which I found just interesting when I was doing my reading. But as long as we're keeping the fluid up, I think it can't hurt anyway. So the other one is developing a good toilet routine. This tends to be more about when you're trying to toilet train them, and for the toddlers out there, because you want them to sort of associate going to the toilet with fun and maybe a game. So some parents use a stool chart, and so that they will give stickers, lollies, encouragement. You know, the big hooray whenever they go to the toilet is always a great time. And so ways of doing this is like every time they go and eat something, I would probably put them on the toilet for 5 minutes, and eventually you're going to get some success, and then they're going to be going to the toilet more regularly, and you're going to find what their natural routine is anyway. And so that having to take them onto the toilet every time will sort of decrease down to whatever their normal routine is. But if you can, trying to talk to them about not wanting to come and talk to you when they need to go to the toilet and let you know and get it done right then and there. You don't want to have this going out where they're holding on because they're too busy playing, because as soon as they hold on, it just gives their lower bowel a chance to absorb that extra bit of water. Things harden up, and it becomes this negative cycle of pain where the stools are harder to pass, they're painful, and as soon as they start associating pain with going to the toilet, we've got all sorts of trouble. Okay, so the other thing is positioning on the toilet, and so this can be a tip for adults as well. So give this a go. Get a stool, have it so your knees are higher than your hips when you put your feet on the stool. Lean forward and put your elbows on your knees and sort of extend your tummy outwards, or just puff it up a little bit. You'll find that this will give you the correct angle to go to the toilet, and things will pass with a lot less straining. You know, sometimes even with these best intentions and tips, you're still going to come across constipation, and if it does get to that point, I would probably say you might have to come in and see us, and we'd probably start off with something simple and safe like stool softeners and osmotic laxatives, which basically just increase water and content to the stools, making them softer and easier to pass, as well as just increasing the fluid in the gut completely and having more of a flushing motion as well, perhaps. If that doesn't work, then we're going to increase up to stimulating laxatives, which, you know, you can still use senna leaf and bisacodyl, which you probably wouldn't use for as long, but you would use with the softeners and the osmotic laxatives. And it's probably better if we have hit a problem that consistency of use of maybe some of these laxatives would be a lot better than intermittently, at least until we get the problem under control as well. There are things that work a lot faster than both of those two options, which is microenemas and suppositories. But really, I wouldn't be using suppositories at on any children that aren't maybe babies and infants, because it just becomes way too dramatic and traumatic for everybody, even the parents. And you don't want them to think that they're getting punished for not going to the toilet. So we'll leave that for more of a drastic measure and avoid it completely if we can. So if your child's having ongoing problems, you know, it's really important to go, and you think they're getting a bit distressed as well, it's really important to go to the GP and get that checked out. You want to tick off that it is just sort of a simple constipation and not anything where there's anatomical problems or any other underlying medical conditions that we're just not addressing. And so a final point is impaction. So impaction is when it's just gotten out of control and the constipation is just too great, things aren't passing. And sometimes you can get this fluid leakage as well, which might come across as like a loosened bowel or diarrhea, but really that could be a sign of this impaction. And this really does need to be managed by a GP, so make sure you go and see one. Well, I think that's about it actually. So that's a fairly long one. So please like and share if you want. If you want to private message me, please do. And if you want more advice and probably something more specific to your needs, come in and see me. I'm always here to help. So until next time, I'll see you later guys. Thanks. Bye.